It has been a while. Good morning, my name is Karen, and these are the 3 books that I read in February. I had a bit of a rough February. I got the flu that everybody else seemed to be getting, and it hit me pretty hard, and it hit my reading pretty hard. And it's funny because we always think like, oh, I'm gonna get sick, I'm gonna be laying in bed, I may as well read. But the type of flu that it was the type that you just want to sleep. You just don't want to be reading. It's too much thinking. So let's go through the 2 5 stars and 1 3 star. I'm going to start with the 3 star because I technically already did a whole vlog with it in it. You can see my vlog here. And it was about basically just mood reading and trying to pick books that I thought would be ones that I really thought were going to be highly ranked. And unfortunately, this one wasn't. This is The Rose Garden. And this one got, I searched the word garden and this one came up. But it intrigued me because it was set in Cornwall, which I love, and it had a little bit of romance and time travel, and those are all things that I have enjoyed in the past. This one, however, felt a little lackluster for me. Either I'm burnt out on the time travel trope, a woman traveling back in time and finding her love, or this book just didn't get me. This one had all the potential. She goes back to like 1680 or something, and there's smugglers, and it could have been so cool. The major critique that I had was that the time travel tended to happen kind of as more of a plot convenience. So if she was about to be in danger, suddenly she would be whisked back to the modern time. And it would sort of kill the mood, like she was going to be in danger and the tension was high, and then the author just goes, nope, time travel back in modern times, she's safe, no problem. It just took away any potential danger for the main character, and I just didn't appreciate that. So this one unfortunately was not highly rated. So let's move on to the 5 stars. The first book that I read this month, this is part of my garden reading project, just like the previous one, but this one really intrigued me. It is a nonfiction. It is The Garden Against Time. Interestingly, this one also focuses on the 17th century. I just made that connection there. That's kind of cool. But she does a heck of a lot more research, and it is so meaty. This was such a surprise. So the premise is that this woman is restoring a 17th century garden. She is basically uprooting everything, watching things grow, seeing it as it's coming up and going through the different seasons and trying to get it back to where it was, its former glory. And in doing so, she also explores the idea of paradise, a lot through the lens of John Milton's Paradise Lost. And in his work, he describes lots of gardens. And so she's sort of filtering it through that lens, but it ends up becoming much more. She explores the types of people, Rich, that would have gardens in the 16th century, and she follows a number of families and the different styles of gardening and history of popularity of styles and plants that come and go, as well as really delving deep into Paradise Lost, like to a point where I need to read her bio, because I would say she's either an English major or she has taught this, because it is so in depth and so wonderfully detailed and written that it is just this sumptuous read, and I loved every minute of it. I think the biggest takeaway that I took from it was the idea that artwork and literature presents the garden as constantly thriving and blooming and presenting fruit, and There's never anything dead in it. But if you've ever been a gardener, you know that all over the garden there is various states of this plant is coming into its peak, this one is just starting, and this one is just leaving. And you get all of that. Big metaphor for life. You can't have everything blooming all at once. And it just hit me. It was so wonderful. If you are into nonfictions that have a lens of historical, but also bringing it forth, she does focus a lot on the COVID times because that's when she starts doing this, and it brings you back. Also, cover, beautiful, fantastic. Would highly recommend this one. This is going to be one of my top books of the year. And the last book that I finished was one of my basically highest, most anticipated reads for the year. I've only got a couple, and this one was at the top. I love me some Nnedi Okorafor. And this is her latest one. This is called Death of the Author. I have read and reread the Binti series. I read her book Noor and loved it. Death of the Author seems like a bit of a departure while also in her wheelhouse for writing. So it is science fiction. It is near future, very near, following a woman who is disabled. She's in a wheelchair. She is a writer, and the inciting incident is that she gets fired from her work and she becomes sort of depressed or kind of doesn't know where to go next, and she writes this novel called Rusted Robots. And Rusted Robots is a complete departure from what she's written before. Before she wrote literature, and then this one's a science fiction, and it's all through the lens of her family history. It's very Nigerian, and there's a lot of commentary on the body and what defines a body, what defines a soul. So beautiful. So we get her life, and as the book becomes more and more popular, gets made into a movie, she gets all these different opportunities. It's interspersed with chapters from her Rusted Robot book. It is so cool to have them juxtapositioned in that there are things in her story that are reflected ever so slightly and nuanced, and then also not so nuanced, with what's going on in her life. And it's a fascinating read because I wouldn't necessarily say she's a likable character, but I would say she's a complex and deeply misunderstood person. It is a great exploration of how people with disabilities or limitations can operate in the world, how her family treats her, how society treats her, how she treats herself. It is very poignant, and I know a lot of people, I think, were wanting more of that science fiction lens, but I think that science fiction lens is there. It's exploring something completely different, and this is definitely a character focused book. So we're kind of following her in this very transformative part of her life. And I think it is definitely at the top, along with The Garden Against Time, as being one of my top books already. Only February, and I've got two of the best books. It was a magical read. It was so immersive. I could not stop reading it. I was just in it completely. Nnedi Okorafor got me hook, line, and sinker. I am ready for any other book you come out with. And that was it. It was a very short wrap up, but as you can see, I had two complete hits, and I hope you're able to check maybe one of them out. My name is Karen. I'm the Book Liebnaut. I explore all types of books. We'll see you again soon. haven't done a sit down video in a very long time. In fact, I haven't even been in this room so long that the bed was basically covered in gift packages and stuff left over from Christmas. So I don't know what my settings are like. I don't know what my framing's like, but we're just gonna go into this and pretend like I know what I'm doing.